What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Remember the cost of freedom.
If we look at the Middle East, I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
Peace family, before we get started, I need you to understand something really quick. What I'm about to show you isn't some theory I cooked up in my basement. This is their science, their botanical records, their peer-reviewed research, their own data turning on them. And here's the beautiful part. Plants don't lie. They can't be edited like Wikipedia, can't be fact-checked by some algorithm, and can't be memory holed by big tech. They just are. So when I show you what I'm about to show you, ask yourself one question. If Columbus wasn't looking for a new world, if he was actually looking for the East and he found it right here, what does that do to everything they taught you in school? Stay with me, because this is about to get real interesting. They teach us Columbus was trying to reach Asia, right? Poor guy just wanted some spices, took a wrong turn, and accidentally discovered America. Oops, my bad, found a whole continent by mistake. But wait, let me ask you something. How does a confused navigator cross an entire ocean? Navigate by stars, survive storms, make landfall exactly where he needs to, and change the course of human history, but somehow doesn't know where he is? That's the story. That's what they're selling. Here's what actually happened. Columbus died believing he'd reached the East Indies. And they tell us he was just confused, didn't understand geography. Right. A master navigator who executed one of the most successful voyages in history was confused about continents. Totally makes sense. Or hear me out. Columbus knew where he was. He followed the ancient maps, the ones that showed the real East the true India superior, the original Oriental lands, and when he landed here in America, he found exactly what he was looking for. The East, the land of gold, the land of spices, the land the Bible describes. He wasn't discovering anything new. He was recovering what was always there, but they can't admit that, because if Columbus found the biblical East in America, the whole narrative collapses. So what did they do? Call him confused. Say he made a mistake. Rename the land New World. Move the entire Eastern story to the other side of the planet. Nothing suspicious about that.
And in 1971, President Nixon declared Columbus Day a national holiday to be observed on the second Monday of October. And why? Because Columbus discovered America and proved that the earth was round. Except didn't need to. Greek mathematician Pythagoras suspected we were living on a sphere as early as the 6th century BC. And Aristotle backed him up 2 centuries later when he noticed the Earth's shadow could be seen during a lunar eclipse, sliding past the moon in miniature, and it was round. So why did Columbus bother getting off the couch at all? Money. In the 15th century, spices were a hot commodity. Traders shipping them between Asia and Europe could get rich quick. However, with the fall of Constantinople to the Turks, Europe lost its most popular route to the treasures of the East. Columbus realized his opportunity, become the first person to plot a western route to Asia and enjoy unprecedented glory and riches. Inconsistent maps made calculating routes difficult. Columbus finally charted a southwestern course he believed was short enough to keep him and his men from dying of starvation and thirst. Spain's Queen Isabella, eager to expand her empire, agreed to roll the dice on Columbus's route. So on that August morning in 1492, Columbus and his men sailed off in those famous ships, laden with hopes of finding their way to Asia, and making both Spain and themselves a heck of a lot of money. After a pit stop in the Canary Islands, the charted world was behind them. Columbus had been right not to trust existing maps, but he didn't realize that his own plotted course to Asia was short by nearly 10,000 miles. Luckily, a series of islands, the future West Indies, lay almost exactly where he believed India to be, and the relieved sailors made landfall. And this is where things get tricky. We're still not sure of the exact location where Columbus first landed, but he was convinced he'd made it to India and declared the route successful. Mission accomplished. The Indians who greeted him were actually an indigenous people who had lived there for centuries. So the claim that Columbus discovered the Americas is only true from a European perspective. But as far as Columbus was concerned, he was right where he'd expected to be. In an exotic land full of natives and spices. Columbus returned to the Spanish court a hero. All were convinced the route was a success, and it surely was, but not as they'd expected. Columbus inadvertently achieved the monumental task of joining the two hemispheres, in effect doubling the size of the habitable planet and establishing trade between the continents. So, on Columbus Day, raise a glass to famed navigator Christopher Columbus, who missed the mark, hit it just the same.
Completely normal historical documentation. Now I know what you're thinking, that's insane. Asia is Asia. America is America. Geography is geography. Cool, then explain this. Why do we call indigenous peoples Indians? Not Native Americans, not First Peoples. Indians. You think Columbus was just that stupid? Just saw some people and went, yep, must be India, or maybe he recognized this land as what the ancients called India Superior, the Greater India, the real East. And I'm about to prove it to you using something they can't argue with. Plants, botanical evidence. The plants don't lie, alright, now we're getting into it. 1800s, there's this botanist, Asa Gray, Harvard professor, serious scientist, peer-reviewed journals, the whole nine. This man spent decades studying plant distribution across the entire world, and he discovered something that absolutely shook the scientific community. Ready? There are over 65 plant genera, that's whole families of plants that exist in only 2 places on Earth, Eastern North America and Eastern Asia, not Europe, not Western America, not Africa, not anywhere in between. Just those 2 spots, plants like Magnolia, Sassafras, Ginseng, tulip trees, pawpaw, only Eastern North America and Eastern Asia, nowhere else.
On here at Mountain Gardens, and that has to do with what I call the East-West connection. So we grow a lot of Chinese herbs and Chinese plants in general. There are a couple reasons for that. One of them we can see right here. So this is a map of ecoregions of the world. You can easily get to it from Wild World website or National Geographic. This is worldwildlife.org. It's available a lot of places. This breaks down the whole world into ecoregions, which has to do with the temperature and moisture as it relates to plants growing. So here's the eastern United States, and here's East Asia. You can see the similarity, because we're both about the same latitude, and there's ocean on the east and continental mass on the west, so that as the colors go to red and orange and then yellow, it's getting drier and more desert-like. The greens and darker blues are more moist, temperate climate. So very similar bioclimatic regions. This website is nice because here's a close-up of the eastern United States, and I had a close-up of China, but I seem to have misplaced it. There's the list of the ecoregions. So each ecoregion has a 2 or 3 page write-up, which talks about the main forest types, some of the endangered species, ecological issues going on there. So, easy way to learn about different provinces of China. You can go into forests in certain parts of China, and every tree will be the same species as a tree here. But that's getting into another topic. So, we have 2 things going on here. One is that the growing conditions are very similar between East Asia and Eastern United States. You can actually get the climatic data for any point, like where you are on the East Coast, and find, there are websites and the research has been done, find places in China that have the identical climate. So that's one connection. But the second connection is that the plants are in fact in East Asia and Eastern North America are in fact related to each other botanically. This is called the Great Botanical Disjunction. And there are a number of papers. People have been studying this for 400 or 500 years. Botanists noticed early on this resemblance between many of the plants in East Asia and Eastern North America. So this article is called Timing the Eastern Asian, Eastern North American Floristic Disjunction. Molecular clock corroborates paleontological estimates. The Eastern Asian, Eastern North American floristic disjunction represents one of the most prominent intercontinental disjunctions of closely related species. Approximately 60 genera of seed plants display this disjunction. This physiographic pattern has attracted the attention of botanists since the time of Linnaeus. That's pretty obvious. So I have a list here of these 60 genera. Ginseng would be the most obvious one. You have Panax ginseng over there, Panax quinquefolius here. But as I started to say, you could go into forests in China and every tree will be the same genus as a tree here. There'll be oak, a maple, a cherry, a tulip poplar, a magnolia. They'll just be different species, same genus, different species. Then you look down on the herb layer and you can see black cohosh, Solomon seal, wild yam, ginseng, different species, same genus. So one of our goals is to grow the Chinese species and the North American species side by side, like Solomon seal, for instance. The Chinese Solomon seal is a very highly regarded longevity tonic. Our Solomon seal has not been used that way, but it might very well have such properties. In fact, the Solomon seal we have right here at Mountain Gardens and in eastern North America is the giant Solomon seal, and I think the Chinese would absolutely love it. It's a very auspicious plant, Solomon seal. So that's one of our goals, is to grow these plants side by side and also to study up on the similarities and differences. So I've got a list here of many of the genera that have a species in China and a species here. Calamus would be a good example. The Asian calamus is slightly different from the one in North America. Angelica. So one of the things I do, I have a class that I teach called medical botany that I teach in Asheville at Taoist Traditions College, and I have my students work on comparative papers where they compare the Asian species with the North American species in an effort to determine whether it could be used as a substitute medicinally or whether it should be used differently. Sometimes the conclusion is that we could use our species the same way the Chinese species is used, and other times it seems to be quite different. So at this point, I have a lot of folders. This is only letter A. So actually, I think Mountain Gardens has one of the largest accumulations of information on this topic of using our native herbs, and we're really trying to focus.
Now here's where it gets fun. The official explanation, the one they teach in universities, is that millions of years ago, these plants spread across a land bridge. Then they died out everywhere except these two spots. Millions of years, land bridges, random extinction patterns. Sure, totally normal botanical distribution. Nothing weird about that. But hold on. If the Earth is only 6,000 to 7,000 years old, which is what the biblical timeline tells us, then what are they actually looking at? They're not looking at millions of years of evolution. They're looking at the flood record. When that global flood happened, it reshaped everything. Deposited sediment layers, fossilized plants rapidly, created what they call geological eras, which is really just sorting from one catastrophic event. So when they say these plants evolved separately over millions of years, what they're really seeing is this. Plants that survived the flood in the true East, which is America, and plants that were taken from America to the Asian provinces when people migrated. You starting to see where I'm going with this? Let's talk about ginseng. Panax quinquefolius. The Chinese call it ren shen. You know what that means? Man root. Because the root looks like a human figure. The Iroquois, right here in America, call it Garant Ogan. Same. Exact. Meaning. Man root. Now the official story says Chinese traders brought ginseng knowledge to America. Right. So the Chinese traveled across an ocean to teach the Iroquois about a plant that grows in their own forests. Makes total sense. Let me give you the actual timeline. American ginseng was discovered by Europeans in 1716 near Montreal, but indigenous peoples had been using it for thousands of years. Same name, same medicinal uses, same reverence. So which makes more sense? The Chinese crossed the ocean to teach Americans about American plants, or the legend of the man root started in America with the Iroquois and got carried east when people migrated. The plant is native to America. The indigenous knowledge is older. The name is identical, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Nothing to see here. Now let's talk about something they really don't want you looking into. Fusang. Ancient Chinese records, we're talking texts from over 1500 years ago, describe a land called Fusang to the east of China. They describe trees with edible fruit, bark used